What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of exciting news to go over here this week, but before I get into the news this week, I first want to mention I'll be doing my usual weekly live stream here on Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time, so join if you can. It's always a fun time hanging out and talking cars with all of you. But getting into the news here this week, we have some very good news. First off, for wealthy manual transmission fans this week, with Ferrari revealing here to carsales.com.au and a few others during a media roundtable here that they're considering doing a new manual transmission. And so Ferrari's chief product development officer is the one that revealed this, saying it would probably be an iconic car because it's a car that represents our heritage, a car to be admired and to be driven in a certain way. And apparently buyers have been requesting one, and even Lewis Hamilton, their new racing driver, wants to see a modern F40 be made. And so I think there is, a growing wave of, influential and important people that are requesting this and making Ferrari consider this. But it also sounds like it might be Ferrari's own idea in a way as well, because of course it has to be. It would be a departure from the ever-increasing power outputs, the ever-increasing performance of their vehicles from a numerical standpoint, and Ferrari is used to always, upping themselves, constantly. And so the executive here, though, says that because of the very high power outputs, if they were to do a manual with just the current stuff they even have, they said the drivers would need a very big leg to use the clutch, to have a clutch that's strong enough to handle that much power, supposedly. But I don't know if I buy that, honestly, because, Ferrari has some brilliant engineers, obviously, and surely they should be able to figure out a way to do a clutch that can handle the amount of horsepower Ferraris do. I mean, it's not like they're doing 2,000 horsepower or something, and we're talking about, stuff under 1,000 horsepower, or even at that point. I still think it should be possible, because, you have to keep in mind, like, a manual Hellcat, just Challenger from a couple of years ago was offered with a manual, and that had 700 horsepower, and I've driven it. It's not like it's some intense leg workout. Sure, it's a little bit of a heavier clutch, but it's, not nearly as bad as, vintage stuff and all that. So, it doesn't seem like this impossible situation like Ferrari's making it out to be. And also Ferrari's V12s make less torque already than what Dodge did with the Hellcat. So maybe buy a transmission off of ZF, I believe, or is maybe a Tremec. If Ferrari can't figure it out for themselves, Tremec already has. So this isn't, again, that doesn't seem to hold water in my opinion. But anyway, the executive also said that we are reaching the limit of performance in our cars, and that in Formula One, it's 2.3 seconds for 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. With the SF90XX, we are at more or less 2.5 or 2.4 seconds, and that's with four-wheel drive. For a normal driver, you have to physically support yourself for this kind of acceleration, and in terms of muscles and bones in your neck, it's not easy for long periods of time. And also saying that without buyers having F1 driver strength, they say, I don't think all of our customers have to train every morning just to drive our cars. This also, to me, is a bit of a reach. Yes, if you are doing constant launches, sure, you're going to, get a neck workout. But I don't think that most Ferrari buyers have, the opportunity to do launches over and over and over again as much as an F1 driver. And, yes, you could call it neck snapping acceleration, but if you're only doing it once or twice, it's not that bad. I've done some sub 3 seconds 0 to 60 launches, and it's not something, you want to do all day, but, I don't think anyone's doing it all day. So, I can kind of understand the sentiment, but, obviously cars have gotten too fast, and I agree. Like, going to lower horsepower, if that's what they have to do to bring the manual back, fine. Like, I have no problems with that. I just always want the reasoning to, hold up to scrutiny, and this, seems like it's really just owners want it. The people that, spend the big bucks on the Icona series seem to want it. Lewis Hamilton seems to want it. that should be enough of a reason. Don't try and pretend like, Ferrari came up with this on their own. They have rejected the manual since, Ferrari California, I think back in like 2010 or 2011 was the last time they offered it. It's okay to just say we're going with the times, and this is what people seem to want. We see this with GMA, with the T33 and the T50 offering the manual, and others, other hypercars and stuff bringing them back. So I think it's awesome. So there's no complaints. It's just kind of funny, the justifications here. But, it does seem like the manual is just a natural evolution for Ferrari at this point, though. If we do, buy into their reasonings here, if you've reached the limit of what you can reasonably expect out of a normal consumer's human body from a performance standpoint, then sure, going backwards, tapping into that nostalgia, tapping into the extra engagement of the manual, I think is absolutely, natural from an evolution standpoint here. And also it keeps the desirability up for people who probably are burned out by, okay, I have everything that already is as fast as an F1 car. What more do I need? This is the other thing that they don't have yet, and so I think, it certainly makes a lot of sense. Now, it's sad to hear that it's only going to be in the Icona models. I can understand that, but, if you're going to the trouble of making a new manual transmission, I can see starting off with the Icona models, but I certainly hope that in the, medium to long-term future here that they do bring back manuals. If this is truly the reasoning, then where are they going to go anyway with the regular production models? If those are also going to get, SF90's a regular car, if all of these things are going to get too fast in Ferrari's mind, then why not put it on non-Icona model stuff? I'd love to see, a new 12-cylinder manual, even as a limited run towards the end, or make it part of the, final special edition or whatever. But I'd love to see this work through the lineup, all the way. So we'll have to see, but very interesting to hear that, and great news that they are open to that. Ferrari's not often, I feel, open to changes of heart very often, and so this is really cool to see this kind of reversal here. So great to see that. And there's also some good news for wealthy wagon fans here this week. all the good news for wealthy people, unfortunately. But so Mercedes has announced here that they will send the E53 Wagon to the United States here. So this is even in the face of the current 25% tariffs on car imports, which I'm guessing they assume won't last long, or buyers will not care because we're talking about what's going to be a rare, nearly six-figure car. They probably won't mind paying 25% more. I think Mercedes has said in the past that their E-Class wagon buyers are some of the wealthiest buyers. They're like people who pay cash. They're people who, don't need discounts. They just walk in, they write a check, and they leave with their E-Class wagon. So if that is the buying demographic there, then I can certainly see them saying, sure, we'll, charge 25% more if we need to, and people will happily pay it. I think they're also saying, the huge demand for M5 Touring, which I talked about recently. They're having to increase production of that at BMW because it's so hot with the demand here in the States. And I think, even though this isn't the full-blown E63 yet, we're still talking about a car that's, very, very potent here. Just as a refresher, this came out last year in Europe, the wagon version of the E53. But just as a refresher, it's got the 3-liter turbo inline 6 along with an electric motor that does a total of 604 horsepower whenever you're in the launch mode there, and a 3.8 second 0 to 60 time. And of course, has all the other handling hardware to make it a well-rounded package. And it is also a plug-in hybrid and will do around 40 miles of electric range as well. And so as far as US sales, they say, again, just depending on what happens in the world here, but it'll go on sale supposedly later this year is the plan. So again, really excited. Another wagon coming. Mercedes is pretty good. They brought the last E63 wagon here to the States. I'm assuming they will for the new one once that E63 eventually comes as well. But it's really great to see that this is trickling down also to the E53. And, so we now have that. They're already offering, the all-terrain, which I think is another reason why they probably have the certification done already for the wagon body style in the States. So this is an easy add. But I'm just happy that they have the bravery to sell a wagon in the States regardless. And so really great to see that, and kudos to Mercedes. Chevrolet this week has announced that they have a new UK design studio, and to show off kind of the capabilities of this studio, they revealed the first of several Corvette concepts that they say are going to be coming here this year. There's going to be additional ones revealed throughout 2025, they say, and they claim that there's no production intention behind this concept, and that it's just a rethink of what a Corvette could be with a true blank page approach. And in this case, that approach is as an electric hypercar. And it looks really cool. It has gull-wing doors, a push-rod suspension, and a race car-inspired chassis, they say. But there's no details on the electric powertrain, considering, again, this is just a design study, so it's all about, the design for now. But for anyone worried about, this idea that GM's playing around with an electric Corvette, there have been past rumors that have suggested that the C9 would still have a V8, and there's even been, reports, I remember about 2 years ago, even reporting that there's a new small block V8 supposedly in development at GM, and that, the V8 will stick around for C9. I mean, that was, again, I haven't heard any new speculation recently. Maybe things have changed. We'll have to see, as far as, just playing a guessing game here. I mean, if C9 is going to probably have close to a 10-year lifespan, like we're probably going to be seeing here with C8, that puts us basically towards the end of the 2030s, almost 2040. By that point, will a gas-powered Corvette still be something that is in vogue? Surely, there will be, the people who will say V8 or nothing forever, but, in the kind of world that will be, in 15 years or so, I don't know. And so I think, that they kind of have to future-proof themselves with Corvettes because of the long lifespan. And the fact that, again, we still haven't, 01's launching this year. Zora is probably coming a year or two after. And then, give that a little bit of time to marinate. And then we'll see C9. So, we'll have to see how that all plays out. But don't be completely shocked if there is an electric Corvette for the C9 instead, or at least a variant that's electric, and they might have to build in a duality there, possibly. We'll have to see. But anyway, other stuff as far as this concept, there's a couple interesting ideas here, including battery technology that they say is embedded into the structure itself, and also an apex vision spine, they call it, that runs, across the top there to give it a structural element that also gives it split windows front and rear, which is kind of cool. Obviously a nod to the 63 split window Corvette there. And so there's no word on when we're going to see the next concept, but the idea of them doing multiple concepts, to me, this feels, I don't know, but this feels to me like they're putting out feelers for how fans want the next Corvette to become, and the direction they want to go with it. So I feel like if we're going to have multiple design concepts, whichever one is the most popular, potentially has the greatest reception, could end up, being the way the design studio goes as far as at least inspiration for C9. I mean, C9, they might have already locked in styling already, but this might even just be like a way to, kind of validate that they are, doing the right thing here. We'll have to wait and see, but it's really interesting. And also it's interesting because during this little press release here, they also said, Jim, one of the executives said, these teams are primarily tasked with imagining what mobility could look like 5, 10, or even 20 years into the future and driving innovation for GM. And including the number 5 is interesting here as far as the years, because oftentimes we're talking about, futuristic stuff. We're not talking about 5 years from now. And, again, 5 years is roughly around when we can probably expect C9. Maybe it'll come a little sooner than that, 2028 or something possibly. But, saying something that short term suggests that, again, this is kind of maybe putting out feelers for C9 possibly. So we'll have to see, or maybe C10 even, potentially, I don't know. But it's very interesting to see this. Let me know your thoughts on that concept in the comments below. But really cool, and I'm excited to see those other concepts whenever they do arrive. Kia had some exciting announcements here during their annual CEO Investor Day here this week. So the biggest bit of the news here is that they revealed that an electric truck is coming to North America here at some point. They didn't say exactly when, but they did say it'll use a new EV platform and that it'll be suited for both urban and outdoor use. And I must have missed this, but apparently last year a hacked up EV9 with a truck bed was spied running around. And honestly, even them doing something as simple as that, I've said this about a variety of brands. Like if you want to just compete with Maverick, you want to just, get into the truck segment, doing that is an easy way, as long as you can figure out where to produce it in the United States because of the chicken tax. You can hack the back end off a whole lot of vehicles, make some trucks real quick and easy to compete with Maverick or anything else, Ridgeline in the larger segment or whatever. So I don't know. It sounds like, according to what they're saying here, that this will be more than just an EV9 with the back end hacked off. because they say that it will be an innovative model that provides segment-leading space, real off-road capability, and a robust towing system. So, you know, I mean, I guess you could classify those things for an EV9 with the back end hacked off as well. But their CEO also said it'll be in the mid-size segment. And that's also impressive because that means that Kia, if this is, you know, like an actual true truck with true capability and all that, you know, they'll be beating all the American companies to a mid-size electric truck. You know, Ford was on pace to do, I think, something like that. And I think there is still some kind of new electric truck coming from Ford, you know, by the end of this decade. But, you know, Ford has also kind of pushed back a lot of that stuff, and it's great to see that Kia might be able to capitalize on that and say, okay, if everyone wants to drag their feet, we won't, and we'll fill that market segment here and be the first. So we'll see. But they also said they aim to sell about 90,000 of these things per year whenever it does eventually come, which is a lot of volume. So we're not talking about some high-end electric crazy weird thing or something that's, you know, going to be expensive and low volume. We're talking about, you know, meat and potatoes product that's going to sell nearly as well as Palisade and Telluride and those staples in the lineup. So that means it's going to have, you know, a competitive price point and be really appealing. Maybe they're optimistic with that sales figure. We'll see. But yeah, interesting that they're, you know, going for it. And as far as production, so there's the new Hyundai Meta plant in Georgia that just opened. That will be building the Hyundai Ioniq 9 as well as the 5 here. And that during that announcement about, you know, what they're building there, they also said that a Kia will be built there in 2026. They didn't say what Kia. You know, I mean, there's a wide variety of stuff, especially with tariffs now, that, you know, Kia would love to build, you know, here in the United States. So we'll have to see, you know, what it ends up being. But this is probably one of the top, you know, candidates for that, which suggests maybe we will actually see this truck next year. And that kind of makes sense if they're telling us in 2025 here that they are doing this. You know, I think we could assume that something will come either later this year and start production, you know, sometime next year. So we'll have to see. But anyway, interesting to hear that. The other little tidbit there about trucks, though, you know, the odd-looking Tasman that Kia just debuted a few months back for the rest of the world, they did confirm that that is still not coming to North America here. That will remain only for Korea, Australia, and emerging markets, they say. So no luck there with that. I'm not sure how many people are upset about that, but, you know, just... You know, it's not going to be the Tasman, that's for sure. And Kia also discussed their future powertrain plans beyond just EVs here, including a new 2.5-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine. And they say that compared to the current one that, you know, you see in other Hyundai Group vehicles, including Kia's, this new engine will have a 5% improvement in thermal efficiency while being 12% more powerful, bumping power to over 300 horsepower. And it'll be used on its own in some applications, just as a pure gas thing, but it'll also be incorporated into a couple next-generation hybrid systems, including just a regular hybrid that they say will be smoother when transitioning from electric mode to gas, which is something I've complained about, and I'm sure many other reviewers have as well. That transition you get in the Kia and Hyundai hybrids isn't totally smooth. So it's great to hear that this will improve upon that. And they also say the hybrids will be 4% more efficient due to a new coaxial steering or serial connection for the gas and electric motor. So, you know, the thing that joins those two together, I guess, has a new thing that makes it more efficient there. So they also revealed, though, that they're working on range extender EVs and that this engine I've just been talking about here will be used as a generator for those electric motors in, you know, those propel those electric vehicles, much like we see with the Ram Charger and many others where you have the gas engine there, but just as a range extender, not connected to the wheels at all, and just there to, you know, charge up the battery whenever you don't want to plug it in. And there's no other details about this powertrain just yet, but, you know, it seems like a smart move. And something they may actually be beating everyone else to the punch, because it sounds like Toyota is planning on doing very high range plug-in hybrids, which still seem like they will, from my understanding, have, you know, a mechanical connection from the gas engine to the wheels. It's just that theirs will use a lesser gas component and, you know, focus more on the electric thing, but still will have that duality, versus range extender EVs where, you know, again, there is no mechanical connection. So I think Kia might be, you know, aside from, again, Ram Charger, you know, Nissan's going to be trying this with their e-Power stuff. Yeah, assuming they continue with that. But, you know, this is going to be one of the first, especially among non-trucks. And so very interesting to see that. Bentley this week has revealed a new variant of their plug-in hybrid powertrain to sit below the 771 horsepower speed models that we just saw not too long ago here. So these new ones here are called the High Performance Hybrid. It still is primarily powered by the 4-liter twin-turbo V8, but the engine has been retuned to provide 100 less horsepower, with the electric motor being the same output as the speed models. So that means 671 horsepower for these ones, a mid to high 3 seconds 0 to 60 time for them, and likely a softer demeanor for people that don't want the aggression of the speed models. They'll also do about 50 miles of electric range. This new powertrain will be available in the regular and Azure trims of the Continental GT and Flying Spur, and they're available to order now. They also appear to get some slight styling tweaks, like a new grille and wheels, and let me know what you think about that in the comments below, but that grille is a little too BMW in my opinion with those vertical slats, but of course there's a zillion options for these things. You don't have to get that, but it's just an interesting choice there for the build of that one. But anyway, moving on here, Audi has also teased the new A6 sedan here that'll be revealed on April 15th, so just next week here. And we just saw the Avant just last month actually, so there's not going to be any surprises here really. This teaser gives a pretty clear idea of the only part that was previously unknown, which was the taillights, trunk lid, and bumper. But I'll be covering the whole thing here next week, and so yeah, good to see that, and I'm sure it's going to be very good looking, just like the Avant version. BMW is gearing up for another Concorso de Eleganza Ville d'Es on Lake Como, and it's going to be happening May 23rd to the 25th, where, among other things, of course, there's auctions, there's car shows and competitions and all that, but they also announced they plan to reveal a new BMW M car, which is likely the M2 CS is the consensus there, but could be something else we'll have to see, as well as an elegantly sporting one-off design to provide motoring pleasure for two. And the artwork for the event shows off a 507, which is one of the cars that will be up for auction, but also might possibly suggest inspiration of this new one-off here. We'll have to see. Or it could just be a new variant of the Skytop concept that we saw last year. We'll see. There also was, I guess, the Skytop concept was spied running around doing testing in camo. So it could be that they're also... they say it's a one-off, so maybe it's not this, but they could also be showing off the Skytop production version here this year. We'll have to see. But anyway, very interesting to see that, and of course be covering whatever those end up being here in May. Mazda has revealed the EZ-60 for the Chinese market, which is an electric SUV based on a platform from Chinese state-owned car company Changan, thanks to a joint partnership with Mazda that follows the recipe that was started by the EZ6 last year. That if you remember, I was very excited. I was like, oh, sweet, a new Mazda 6. Unfortunately, it's only a new Mazda 6 if you live in, China or Europe. It is coming to Europe here. I believe UK is getting it in 2026. But, other parts of the world are getting a Mazda 6. We are not, sadly. But like that sedan, this SUV will also be coming to Europe, likely as the CX-6E. I don't think that's been confirmed yet, but, in Europe, they haven't used the EZ thing. It's called the 6E in Europe, so we'll see. But this new SUV looks really good. There's no view of the interior or any powertrain info on it just yet either, but the inside should copy a lot from the sedan, which is very impressive. And full details will come at the Auto Shanghai 2025 show later this month, and unfortunately we won't get any of these in North America, but Mazda did recently reveal that they are working on their own EV platform that we will be getting, and the first vehicle to ride on that will be coming in 2027 here in the States. So about 2 years or so we'll get our own Mazda EV, but really, some stunning looking cars here the rest of the world's getting from Mazda, and so yeah, seems very promising. Cadillac this week has announced that the XT6 will end production late this year, despite a sales increase last year of 5.8%. For an aging vehicle, that's impressive, and sales of over 20,000 units still. Also pretty good for, again, a luxury segment 3-row. And the reason for this is that Cadillac told Reuters that Cadillac has introduced 6 new products in less than a year that represent the future of the brand. We will continue to make the necessary adjustments to the portfolio to maintain growth in critical luxury segments. So it really seems like Cadillac is sticking to their goal of potentially going all electric by 2030 here, with the intended replacement for the XT6 being the new Vistic that was debuted last year, and Reuters saying that even the XT5, which is, again, one of their top sellers, will meet the same fate by the end of next year. So that is on the chopping block. Obviously, that already has a replacement here. Technically, with the Lyriq, Optic is, kind of supposed to be positioned to replace XT4, which, got killed off last year as well. And it really seems like they are one by one, replacing every model in the lineup with an EV. And I think really following this path more clearly than any other company in the auto industry right now. And also there's been recent reports from GM Authority I just covered not too long ago, claiming that the CT4 and CT5 sedans will also get replaced by 2 electric sedans, one CT5 size and one actually CT6 size, if you remember that. But so if that also turns out to be true, then literally the last gas thing left in the Cadillac lineup will be the Escalade. If, by 2027 or so, I'm assuming we get those new sedans, then, it's actually going to be Escalade as the last one here. And, Escalade already has Escalade IQ, and there's the IQL version. And I think, Cadillac is still the big breadwinner for Cadillac. That is the thing that, keeps them thriving. And they're not going to want to mess with that. So Escalade still may stick around beyond 2030 with a gas powertrain. But if they can convert enough regular Escalade buyers over to IQ and IQL, we could even see regular Escalade go away and them actually fully switch to electric. Again, could happen by 2030. We'll have to see. Again, we got now 5 years for IQ and IQL to do their thing and for them to get the data and see, what the kind of decision to make here. But if those do well, I could totally see Cadillac could actually be the first car company to successfully switch over from a full gas lineup to a full electric lineup. And Lyriq's been selling well. Optic seems like it's off to a good start so far. And it seems like they're doing a pretty good job of it as well. So, everyone else in the auto industry is saying it's impossible and they got to, backtrack and stuff. And Cadillac's just quietly doing their thing, and it seems like they're actually succeeding at that. So I very much respect and commend them for the dedication and also just, the boldness to, again, discontinue stuff that is growing in sales because they have their eyes on that goal. And so we'll have to see, but farewell to the XT6. I reviewed one, spent a week with one, several years ago. It was a nice vehicle. It wasn't best in class in my opinion anyway. So I'm not sure a ton of people will miss it, but, it is, notable that is, actually going away. And it's time to talk about tariffs again this week, unfortunately. So, despite the 90-day pause on many tariffs that happened here this week, sadly the car ones still remain, at least as of Friday morning here when I'm filming this. But who knows anymore, because it seems like presidential policies change by the hour, at least as far as tariffs goes. But anyway, in response to all of these tariffs and uncertainty, one car company here has already dropped a car, which is something that myself and many others predicted was going to happen. I've been talking about this for several weeks now, but the first casualty that actually proves this is the Volvo S90. So it's built in China, and so the current tariffs, again, happening at least as of this hour, of 145% on Chinese imports, makes it impossible to import in. And according to Automotive News, their anonymous insiders say it's a low-volume car for the U.S., and rather than deal with the tariffs, they're just going to cut it out. And I literally just said this 2 weeks ago in regards to the affordable sports car market. These low-volume cars are the ones that are most at danger. And S90 is especially low-volume. I think they sold like 1,200 or so of these last year. So that's even lower than, Miata and GR86. So, this is the low-hanging fruit that was probably always going to be the first to go, or one of the first. But this shows this actually is happening. This isn't just me spiraling or pretending like it's all doom and gloom. We're not having S90 anymore. So this is the first example of less choice in the auto market because of tariffs and companies just saying, we don't need to play anymore. The S90 will continue for other markets. It still is. We have ES90 on the horizon. We'll see what ends up happening with that. But, they are still selling S90 in other parts of the world. But they just, at this point in its lifespan and, the amount of demand it has is just not worth it for them to do it. And I'm going to get more into that here in a minute. But, Also, it's worth noting the other two Chinese-built gas cars that we have here in the States are the Lincoln Nautilus and the Buick Envision. Both are built in China, and I assume they're also going to get hit with these tariffs and are probably going to be discontinued until they can retool a factory somewhere in the U.S. to build those two, because those two are very high demand that I think are worth relocating production instead of just completely killing them. But you could see them drop out of and not importing them for a while until they can figure that out. Which, I mean, retooling a factory, even if you start tomorrow, probably is going to take at least 6 months. So we might count on those two not being around here for the 2025 model year here. And I'm sure that Lincoln's got to be so pissed about this, because Nautilus literally won Motor Trend Car of the Year for 2025, or SUV of the Year for 2025. It's been getting great critical praise. I loved it when I spent a week with one last year. Many others are really impressed with it. Sales have been doing really well for it. And now they won't even be able to sell it till who knows when, most likely. Again, we'll see how Lincoln decides to play it, and how Buick decides to play it as well. But again, and obviously, again, all this could change by the hour as far as tariffs, but as of right now, not looking good. If you want to get a Nautilus or an Envision, get them yesterday. Like, get them now. Do not wait, because, and I mean, who knows, maybe dealers are already putting markups on them, but definitely don't drag your feet on that. But that's not the only chaos that the tariffs caused the auto industry here this week. So Jaguar Land Rover, Lotus, Audi, Volkswagen, Porsche, and likely the rest of Volkswagen Group as well, although that hasn't been confirmed. But they all paused shipments to the U.S. here. And JLR says they're pausing for a month. Everyone else says it's indefinite. And so according to an Audi dealer memo that was obtained by Automotive News, any Audis that arrived at port after April 2nd will be ordered to just sit there indefinitely and rot until, again, this is resolved. And this is going to be a nightmare for buyers. It's a nightmare for dealers, and obviously for, Audi and, these other companies as well. And even stuff like the Q5 that's built in Mexico won't be shipped in due to Audi not being in the U.S., Canada, Mexico trade agreement, and therefore getting hit with the full tariff if, they do decide to bring it in, which, so they're not even doing that, I don't think. So Audi told Motor One that they are closely monitoring developments and will comprehensively assess internally the potential impact on supply chains and our production network. But I mean, especially, Audi's one thing, but now we're talking about Porsche, where many of the vehicles are special order, commissioned, very desirable vehicles. To not only say you can't have it, but that it's rotting potentially at a port. Agony. I mean, I would completely lose my mind if I had, ordered some dream Porsche and then it's, halted. I mean, maybe for some of these, I would hope that they'll do some as case kind of basis where they can, say, look, you just ordered some GT3 RS, pay the extra 25%, you can have your car. And maybe some of them will do that. That's just me spitballing here, but I would hope that at least for that very high-end stuff, they can do that. Same goes for maybe, the other high-end Volkswagen Group stuff, the Bentleys, the Lamborghinis and stuff. I don't know. But at least as far as, the volume stuff, the Audis and all the other things that are just churned out and, brought over for the most part, there's none of that, coming in. So, that's got to be devastating, maddening, all the words. And, so all those lucky folks that had orders in for that kind of stuff are now very unlucky, that even though they can afford it, they possibly can't have those things. And I'm sure, that most other companies that import cars will do the same if these tariffs hold firm here. But I guess we'll have to see about that. Hyundai, for example, has said that they are locking in pricing until June 2nd, and then after that, all bets are off. And I think they are continuing to import stuff. They're also hopeful they can make a deal with the U.S. We will see, how that all plays out. But it's still a very uncertain market. And like I said before, if you need a car now or you want one, I mean, get it now while there's still supply, because that could be something that vanishes here. And hopefully there's not going to be too many markups just yet, but I'm sure some dealers are probably already licking their lips and capitalizing on what will be most likely again a supply shortage sooner or later here. But yeah, so Crazy stuff there. And also, like I've been warning, it sounds like tariffs may even lead to entire brands leaving the U.S. I've talked about this as well. I speculated that, brands like Mini, low volume brands like that, even Mitsubishi potentially could, leave if deals aren't made here. And so Stellantis this week confirmed to Motor One that management consulting firm McKinsey and Company have been hired to provide its considerations regarding the recently announced U.S. tariffs for Alfa Romeo and Maserati. So this is worded to sound mild, very effectively, PR speak here, but supposedly bringing in a consulting firm like this is a big deal that signals real trouble, it seems. And again, getting back to the Volvo S90 situation, these low volume things, it might not make sense to sell them here anymore with the tariffs. And so, even like, these Alphas and these Maseratis aren't built in China, but even if it's just a 25% tariff, Alfa sold under 9,000 cars here in the States last year. Maserati was under 5,000. And, both brands already struggle here anyway. And, this is what I'm saying is like these weakest links, they can't handle any more adversity. And, this is a major hurdle. And so you put that in front of them, it might just be game over here in the States for them. And apparently discussions are in the early phase right now, but according to Automotive News Europe, options on the table include partnering with other companies, including Asian-based automakers, which sounds like we're talking about China here, or even selling brands altogether. So this also indicates, again, if this reporting is accurate, that we're not even talking about brands just leaving the U.S., but we're talking about Alfa and Maserati potentially even having to be sold off completely, affecting the entire world due to, again, just these headwinds that are really going to hurt Stellantis and obviously every other car company. And again, Stellantis is in this rebuilding phase. They're doing a new CEO, and they got rid of the old one last year that really hurt things for them. They can't handle much more adversity. And so, there was a rumor last year about Maserati potentially, getting sold off at some point or spun off or something. And now with this, maybe this is the final nail in the coffin with these tariffs. Again, assuming that they hold and everything, that this could actually be the end of Stellantis ownership of Alfa and Maserati, and also the end of those models being offered here in those brands, being offered here in the States. So, it's sad for enthusiasts who, are hoping that we have, a thriving sector with V8s and all these, gas guzzlers and stuff here with this new administration. And then you're going to lose Alfa and Maserati. Probably not huge losses for a lot of people because, again, they don't sell super well. But it's just sad, it's exciting to see Alfa come back, last decade. And, it's always been fun to have Maserati around. There's a lot of brand equity there. And someone will hopefully be able to capitalize on it, but it might not be Stellantis anymore. We'll have to see. It's also sad because we have a new Stelvio coming by the end of this year here. There's some new products starting to, finally come online. Maserati's got some pretty fresh stuff here now. And it's just sounds like it's going to be too little too late possibly for those. So we'll have to see. But yeah, like I've said before, if this crap keeps up with tariffs, we will have less choice as far as the kinds of cars we can buy here in America, and probably a lot less. Again, it starts with S90, and it extends possibly to Alphas and Maseratis. Who's going to be the next domino to fall? I think if this continues, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And it shows, though, these are real problems. This isn't just like hypothetical crap and, again, spitballing. This is, we no longer have the S90 for sale. We might not have Alfa and Maserati. So anyway, it is what it is, but very interesting to see all that. And lastly, I want to thank all of you that are members of the Matt Moran Motoring Club. So we did have 2 new members that actually joined on their own this past week. So big thanks to Rick Klinger and Procrastinate F80 for joining during last week's live stream. I really appreciate the support. Hope you guys are all enjoying the membership perks here so far, come with being a member here. And I also want to thank Grand Admiral Thrawn and Vinny2142 for also gifting memberships during last week's live stream. I really appreciate the support from you guys as well. And I'm sure, all those members are able to join and rejoin also really appreciate your generosity as well. And so I want to give a big welcome here to the new members that were able to join, including Newton TY, Confirmation 07, Ryan Dubay, and Stangman. So I hope you're all, again, enjoying those perks so far. I'm looking forward to chatting with those of you who can make it to Sunday's live stream, where those members do always get that priority answering. If you'd also like that priority answering, there's always join buttons here on the video page, on the channel page, and a link in the description. But anyway, that's it as far as all the car news this week. Let me know your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Please leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.